So hello and welcome to Ewe Sew You. My name's Zoe and this is my channel all about the crafty bits and pieces I get up to. I knit, I sew, I spin, I dabble in weaving from time to time, and anything else that takes my crafty fancy. But today we're taking a look at the things I've been working on in August. So grab a brew, put your feet up and let's get started. So welcome back to any returning viewers and to any new viewers, a very warm welcome to you. As I mentioned in the opening to the video, we're looking at what I've been working on in August this week. So I had a feeling that it might not be as much as in some other months because of changes to work hours and what have you, but actually I'm pretty pleased with how much I've got done for around about work and sorting out various other bits and pieces, but more on that later. So before we dive straight into it, let's take a look at what I am wearing. So this is my romper version of the Shelby, which is a dress and romper jumpsuit pattern from True Bias. I made this a couple of years ago in this viscose linen blend. It gets a lot of wear most summers. It hasn't had so much this summer, purely because the buttons pop open every once in a while, so I'm not really wearing it out of the house at the minute until I get round to reducing the size of the buttonholes, because that's the issue. They've stretched out a bit. So I think I've maybe not got the sturdy enough interfacing in the button placket. Maybe my sewing machine's a little bit generous when it sews at buttonholes. I'm not entirely sure. But I'm wearing it around the house at the moment because I am planning on making another version with some fabric I've had arrive that is currently just out of shot, drying, waiting to be pressed. So hopefully you'll be seeing that next month. There will also be a post on Minerva for my projects with that particular batch of fabric, because they are fabrics that have come from them. So that's what this is. I'm wearing it around the house quite a lot to sort of get a sense of any adjustments that I might want to make when I make the next version. So things like I want to raise the crotch seam 1.5 inches to 2 inches, so I need to work out exactly how far that is, considering whether or not I need to make some adjustments to the top of the bodice around the bust line, because it's loose at the moment, which is fine for hot weather. It does tend to gap a little bit when I sit down, like not when I'm sitting up like this sensibly like I would be at work and that kind of thing, but when I'm sort of lounging in comfy chairs I do get a bit gaping. I'm not sure that I really need to adjust that. The cap sleeves are fine, but they do sort of start to dig in when you get your arms to about there, as cap sleeves tend to do. So I'm debating whether or not I put sleeves on the next one. I might just do it as a strapless version. The shoulder seam sits in a nice place on me. I do find in general the True Bias block works quite well for me. I've had good success with True Bias trousers, had good success with this particular garment. I don't think I made any sort of specifically tops or dresses from True Bias, but I have made trousers and that kind of thing, and the block seems to work reasonably well for me, with a couple of minor tweaks that you sort of expect to make when you've made a few versions of a type of garment. There are things that you'll want to adjust for your own body type. For me, crotch seam is one of them, particularly on jumpsuits, because they tend to be designed for slightly longer bodies than I have. So that's a bit of an adjustment. I like the overall length of it. It's the knee length version that I've done for this one. I'm thinking of doing a bit longer on the next one. The fabric that I'm planning to use for it, I have, I think, 3.5 meters, maybe 4 meters. 4 meters, I'd definitely be able to do the full length version. But again, my leg length is a bit shorter than patterns I usually drafted for, so I may not need full 4 meters to make the length to work for me. So 3.5 meters should be fine. I might do more of a sort of mid-calf, midi length anyway, because overall the Shelby looks like a dress in the jumpsuit version when you're stood up and walking around, which is kind of the appeal for me. It's that very sort of 90s button-down dresses that were quite often in sort of Laura Ashley ditzy floral type prints. Or certainly the ones that were in my wardrobe. So there's a very sort of narrow A-line silhouette, a bit of a tie. There's a tie at the back here to cinch it in at the waist a bit. Quite often they came with cap sleeves, sometimes a bit shorter than these cap sleeves. Sometimes they're full-length sleeves. But yeah, that kind of 90s vibe that I like, but I do tend to reach for trousers more than I reach for skirts and dresses. So I'm thinking the jumpsuit version, the longer length jumpsuit version, that I can then wear more into the slightly colder months, may work better for me. That's another reason for considering doing it with no sleeves, because then I can layer it over more sort of winter appropriate garments underneath, so like tight fitting sweaters or long sleeve t-shirts, that kind of thing, to get a little bit of added warmth to it. So I think that's going to give me a bit more versatility, and because it's a viscose challis that I've got to make it in, it'll be nice and breezy and airy for the summer as well, so I'll still be able to wear it in the longer length in the warm months. That's the plan. So we'll see how well that comes to fruition. So yeah, so I'm debating a couple of things with this one. I will probably end up, to be fair, leaving the bodice as is and just shortening the body length by raising that crotch seam. And then just working out the leg length that's going to work for both the available fabric, because it is directional, and my leg length as well. And yeah, probably going for a firmer interfacing than I've used on this one. I think for this one I used a light interfacing. I probably should have used a medium to make the buttonholes a little bit more stable. But otherwise, yeah, it's fine. I enjoy wearing it. It looks nice. It's an easy sort of throw it on, no thought outfit. Yeah, okay, you have to think about using the ladies' room carefully and timing things and that sort of stuff, because, you know, jumpsuits. But that doesn't bother me too much on account of we don't have gaps in the doors in the UK. So you're nice and safe, and privacy is preserved. So moving on from what's possibly a little bit more information than is necessary to my finished objects, and I do have a couple. Well, more than a couple actually. I've done quite well on the finished objects this month. So let's start with this month's gnome. So here we have, falling over, here we have Newt. He is from the Leave Gnome Stone Unturned pattern, I believe. So the same pattern that I used last month for Numbleberry, and I have also used the same yarn, so they go together nicely. So he's a very small gnome, really short little arms, so those I-cords didn't take long at all. Nice little I-cord loop in his hat, and his nose is an I-cord as well. So this gnome has no beard, which I think might be my first, other than Nana, the Christmas gnome. He's the only one that doesn't have a beard, I think. Oh, and I have two. The one with the giant nose also has no beard. So yeah, most of my gnomes have beards, but there's a few that don't. So yeah, so he'll sit quite nicely in my little collection. And we've just got a few months left to go. I'll have a baker's dozen of gnomes by the end of the year. So yeah, look forward to that. So let's move Newt out the way, pop him to one side, and move on to the next the next few finished objects, for which there are videos going into a little bit more detail for some of them anyway. So let's start with my loom knitting project. So loom knitting is new to me. I don't yet have a large enough loom for doing wearable hats and things for myself, but I did have a go at making a pattern from my loom knitting book. This is the simple hat. So it's got this little, it's like a rolled brim. So it's, if you can pull it down there, and it sort of flops itself up. It's a different stitch at the bottom for the brim, and then it's just using E-wrap stitches all the way up to the crown. Which meant I got to practice decreases, and I got to practice the modified flat drawstring cast off, I think that's what it's called, that Luma Hat does on, it's got YouTube videos available showing how she does it. So yeah, it's a nice little flat hat thing on top. The pattern has you do, the pattern doesn't call it the modified one that she does, but it's essentially the same cast off. So I used that when I made the Christmas tree last month. But yeah, it's basically the same cast off at the top here. So a little bit of a practice on how to make hats, but yeah, a little bit too small for my noggin. It stops just above my ears. So I mean, I could make a hat like this and just do it longer than the pattern calls for and make it work for myself, but it does stretch the stitches out and you get this sort of lacy effect, which is not what I'm looking for in a hat for myself. But you know, it's practicing skills, so that's all good. The other loom knitting project I've made, which I do have a video showing how I did it, is this headband. Again, it's a little small for me. I mean, I can get it on, it does cover my ears. It will do the job because I've held multiple strands of yarn together for this one, but it does stretch the stitches out a bit, so you sort of lose some of the effect of the stocking stitch wearing it on a head my size. So I need to either knit these sorts of things in the flat on the looms or get a larger loom for doing hats and headbands and that sort of stuff for me. But it is quite quick compared to needle knitting, or it seems to be quite quick compared to needle knitting so far. And yeah, for things that I wouldn't necessarily want to do on the needles, or if I'm having issues with my wrist, as I sometimes do, so I need sort of a change in the motion that I'm using to make these projects, the knitting looms are going to fit nicely in there to help the health of my wrists and my hand and my arm to mix it up a bit and just not get stuck with the same motion all the time, because that's when you get repetitive strain injuries and that kind of thing, and we want to avoid that where possible. So yeah, so I've added that into the mix. I don't know how much I'll get done on the knitting looms, but yeah, they will pop up every once in a while. I do want to get some other looms. Also, say I want to get a larger loom to do hats for myself. I also want to get some different gauge looms so I can use different yarns and use up some of my scraps. And you can do socks on them as well, so that's something I want to have a go at. Just I feel like when I want to replace socks, if I want to make slippers or want to make gift socks, particularly when I, you know, haven't planned ahead. So I do want to get different gauges of looms, different shapes shapes and sizes of looms, and try different ones out. You can also get blanket looms, which I think would be quite good for like one-piece blankets, where they get quite heavy because the loom will be helping to support the weight of the project. You can do obviously blanket on the smaller looms and do them in like strips or blocks or whatever and sew them together. That's fine, but yeah, I think the idea of having a larger loom, they do them like S-shaped to hold the weight of the blanket on, I think would be quite a good move. So that's where I'm heading with the loom knitting. Just like an added string to my bow effectively for knitting projects. Sticking with looms, another project that I have a video out for. I recently acquired, I say recently, about the same time as I got the knitting looms, I acquired a flower loom, or a hana-ami as it's sometimes referred to. So I had a little bit of dabble off camera using tutorials from YouTube, because the instructions that came with my loom, they're not great. They're clearly translated from, I think, Chinese, and it doesn't always naturally follow into the terms that we use in crafting when you're translating from one language to another. I had the same issue when I was trying to translate from Norwegian into English, particularly as I don't speak Norwegian. It can be quite hard to find the specific craft-related terms, which can make instructions a little bit patchy or a little bit hard to follow, because the terminology is just not there. You really need somebody who crafts in both languages to get an effective translation done. And I'm not sure that everybody has access to somebody who can do that. So using the YouTube tutorials, I came up with these flowers, so made on round looms, hexagon looms. That was a round loom, that was a hexagon loom, and that one's a square loom with a round loom centre. So these are sort of basic flowers that you can make on the hana-ami. I mean, just holding them like that, you could make quite a nice little posy or display or something to go in a vase or something out of these if you wanted to. They're quite effective as a little group, as well as, you know, sewing them onto other projects. So I had a bit of play with that, and then I thought, well, you know what, I can weave. I have an inklet loom, I have a tapestry loom, I've done in the past backstrap loom, backstrap weaving. So the weaving is something that I have dabbled with, I have played around with. It's something I do know how to do the basics of. So I thought, well, let's try something a little bit different. And this is the project that I have the video for. And I've made some plain weave or tabby weave flowers. So the petals are woven like you would make for cloth. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. They were really a play around and see what you come up with kind of project. But I do have a video up showing how I've made these. So one of them I made on the video, one of them I already had made. But I think they're quite effective. And again, you can use them as decorations on other projects. You could use them in a bouquet. If I put them together with the pink ones, so you're already getting quite a nice little posy little bunch of flowers that you can use as decor or embellishments to things. Again, I don't think I'll be making a whole ton of flowers, but when I do want a flower to put on a bag or to make a display or use as a little something when you're wrapping gifts, that sort of stuff, or put on a cushion or any of that sort of stuff, I do have a gadget now that can help me to do it without, you know, tying myself in knots. So that's good. It's going to be handy for the occasional use, and because I didn't get the name brand version of it, hence the less than ideal instructions, it was not particularly expensive. There are a lot of them around now. They're not sort of just limited to the big name brands. I think Clover is the one that I mainly see the flower looms from. But there are now lots of smaller companies, largely out of Asia from what I can tell, that are retailing the same essential thing. So you can get them affordably. Not that I think Clover would be particularly expensive, but I got the one that was available to me at the time. My other finished object, I say finished object, it does need to be soaked to set the twist and what have you, and that is this skein of yarn. Oh, I didn't grab my stats for it. Bear with me a moment, just going to do a little bit of a jump cut here while I go and grab the statistics for this yarn. Okay, so I've grabbed my envelope that I've written things down the back of. So this is a skein of fibre that I dyed myself. It came in a kit with a skein of yarn and some dyes. I will put the information on screen of where I got it from because I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it might be Corriedale. Yeah, I think it might be Corriedale. So I dyed it up myself and I spun it on my support spindle. So it has come up a little bit more woolen than yarns that I've spun on my drop spindles. And gravity helps with keeping the yarn smoother, whereas the support spindle doesn't need the gravity, so you can spin something a bit more airy. So it's from a comb top, so yeah, it makes sense that it's come out a bit woolen. At the moment, I'd say it's about a fingering weight. It's 16 to 18 wraps per inch. That puts it in the fingering weight ballpark. I've got 211.5 meters roughly, based on wraps around my niddy noddy. But I do think it's going to poof up a bit when I soak it and set the twist, so it might come out a little bit more DK-ish than fingering, which is fine. And obviously being hand spun, it's got a bit thin, a bit thick on there, so it isn't consistent all the way through. I mean, you can, if I hold up closer to the camera, you can probably see there are bits that are more spun than others, but I'm really pleased with how the colours have played together. In the fibre, it was quite brightly dyed, and there was also yellow in there, almost neon, sort of quite almost neon greens. But it's blended together nicely with the reds and the sort of turquoisey blues that I put in there. So some bits have come out kind of autumnally brown leaves kind of tones, and other parts are more vibrant. But obviously spinning mutes the colours a bit as it blends the fibres together. So it's come out with this more sort of autumnal, appley, leafy kind of colour. So yes, we're going to get that set. I'm going to double check which fibre it is. I think it's Corriedale. And yeah, then I'll need to work out what I'm going to do with it. Being something woolen, being sort of autumny colours. I'm thinking maybe a hat, maybe a cowl, or a single skein shawlette type thing. Something where I can let the colours play, because it is variegated. It has got barber poling in it. Yeah, so we'll see. But part of the reason for finishing this month was because of buying the spinning wheel. So I wanted to clear my support spindle project off that's been on the go for a little while. I'm not going to worry about clearing off my silk spin that I haven't touched in over a year, because that's just going to be one of those long-term running projects. I had hoped to be able to get the spinning wheel fixed by this point so that I could start using it, but there's a little bit of woodworking skills needed and I don't have them. So we're trying to find somebody who is capable of doing it in the local area and doesn't sort of run scared of it like we are. I mean, it's one of those things, I know what needs doing, I just don't have the experience doing it, and I don't want to damage the wheel. I have been able to do a bit of research on the wheel. I know a little bit more about it, what type of wheel it is, and therefore kind of roughly the age range that it could be. I mean, it could be 60 years old, it could be 160 years old. So yeah, so I'll go a little bit more into knowledge about the wheel when it's up and running and I start doing my first spin, and I'll do a video at that point with a bit more information about the wheel. But yeah, it's just a little bit of a struggle trying to find someone that can help me to do the fixes, because the previous owners pretty much bodged it. They weren't a spinner, they clearly weren't a spinner. You can tell just by how they've put things back together and how they had it set up for display. But that's fine. There is a guild of spinners, weavers and dyers in my county, and it's the first time in a very, very long time that I have regretted not retrying to pass my driving test, because to get to them on public transport, I could get to Paris in the same time. So looking to see if there's I'm trying to find a different route to get there, but I don't have available transport the weekend that they've got their next meeting. And I know they've got some people who can fix it, because I've contacted them and they have confirmed that they do have people who have experience repairing and restoring wheels. So yeah, if I can find someone closer, that would be ideal. So yeah, we're working on that. It might be a couple of months at least before I'm actually spinning on the wheel, but for general consensus is that once she's had the fix done that needs doing, she'll be a good wheel. So, you know, there's that. So watch this space for spinning stuff. With that being said, let's move on to works in progress. Yet again, I have not touched my socks, so I won't be showing them those this week for the August video, because yeah, I literally haven't touched them the whole month. I have made some progress on my centre point popover. So last month I was working on the first sleeve, I believe. So the first sleeve is now done. So there we go, that's my first sleeve. And we are now working on the second sleeve. So I've done the shaping and I've started working on the ribbing for that sleeve. So once that is done, there's a little bit to do at the hem, and then it'll be the neckline and the hood. So I can actually now hold it up and show it to you. There is a little bit of a weird bump on the shoulders at the moment. This is not the pattern. This is Zoe messed up her increases and had to fudge it a bit. So she now has more stitches on the hemline than she's supposed to. And weird lumps at the shoulders, but I think they will block out when I finished it and block it, and when I wear it I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. I think the fabric will mitigate that as it hangs up. Because if I hold it like that, you can sort of see the weight is already reducing those little lumps there. So yeah, so that was rather than ripping back and trying to get it back to, because I would have had to take it back to sort of the beginning of the section of the pattern rather than just a couple of rounds. I just sort of fudged it to get back to what I thought was the stitch count I needed, and then by the time I'd done enough repeats I had more stitches than I needed. It is what it is. It'll be fine. So that is not that far off completion. Hopefully I'll get that done in September so that I can then wear it when the weather starts to cool down. We usually get some warm days as far as October. I mean, not like hot, but warmer days as far as October. So by end of October, beginning of November, I'd like to be wearing sweaters again on regular rotation. So yeah, so looking forward to getting that done. Don't have a huge amount to do left on it, and it is certainly the sleeve I'm working at the moment. It's stuff I can do watching the TV, so that's nice. I mean, I could probably read doing that because it is just 2x2 ribbing. But, yeah, so that's that project. And my other work in progress for the month, yes, that's right, there's only 2 works in progress this month to show you. That doesn't mean that there aren't others hiding around the house, but these are the ones I'm actively working on. So when I was picking up stuff for anniversary gifts, because that was July, I did spot a kit from Japan Crafts for the Boromono bag, which is just there. So it came with all the fabrics, all the materials that you needed. I have stuck in here as well my chalk pencil and some pins, because I needed those for measuring things out and trimming things down and that sort of stuff, and then pinning bits together. So I'm working on this project. This is going to be a project bag for me, I think, once it's done. Looking at the size of it, I think that's going to be the most useful application for it. I've got as far as patching together my fabric. So Boromono is a Japanese patchworking style. And so this is going to be a Boro inspired bag. I won't go as far as to say it's totally accurate to Boro, because Boro was used for repairing clothes. And this is not repairs, I've made new fabric. There are raw edges on the patches, so I'm expecting a bit of fraying to appear over time with this bag. The patches have all been sewn onto a plain blue backing fabric. So you see the stitches. These will be visible on the inside of the bag. As the next step is to fold it in half, and then you stitch 2 of the sides and put a handle on it and a loop for a button, that kind of thing. So it's going to be this sort of size. I think it's this way up that it goes. You have to fold the lining at this side. So the lining, the edges are all protected, but the patches aren't. So yeah, there is going to be a bit of fraying, but I'm okay with that. It's that sort of a project. So I think I have to sew this one together, sew this one together, and then you box out the corners. So it'll be a little bit smaller than this. So yeah, I'm thinking projects. If I do manage to make it over to spinners, weavers and dyers, particularly not taking the wheel, because it'll be easier on public transport to do it without the wheel. This would be good for putting a spindle project in. It would also be good for knitting projects, socks, shawls, mittens, hats, that kind of a size. So yeah, so enjoying this. It's nice and relaxing. Again, I can do it in front of the TV. And it's nice that everything came in the kit. All the fabric, all the thread, all the needles, and all the instructions are there. And they sort of encourage you to take like a slow stitching approach to putting the fabric together. So they do say, right, this is how you do it, try to keep straight lines, but if you want to throw in extra stitches, this, that, and the other, do that. So the instructions are quite nice, and it wasn't massively expensive. I think the same company does sashiko kits as well, so I want to try those at some point. But yeah, I thought this was a nice sort of introduction to Boro. So that's my works in progress for this month, and it's all I have to show you. As I say, I do have some fabrics drying, waiting to be pressed and cut out, so there should be some sewing happening next month. The spinning wheel will hopefully find someone who can repair it in the next month, so hopefully by the end of the year I'll be able to spin on it and get some more information to you about the wheel itself, because it's the type of wheel that I've ended up with has got an interesting backstory to it. So there will be more on that coming once the wheel is up and running. Want to get the popover finished, and I've still got that yarn to wind up for the little waistcoat that I want to make from the same designer as the popover, as well as obviously all my other works in progress that are languishing in various corners of the house. I haven't updated my spreadsheet in a while, so I should probably do that. See how many I've got. Definitely less than at the start of the year, because I've finished more things than I've started. So that's good. I haven't banned myself from starting new projects because, let's face it, that's not going to happen. But I am trying to get through some of the ones that have been on the go for a while and get them finished and out the door. And that's going to be an ongoing process, so that I can get my works in progress down to a level that I don't have to refer to a spreadsheet to know what I've got. That would be nice. Okay, so thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. In the meantime, there's this one here that may be of interest to you, and I will see you soon. But until then, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.